percolating thoughts. Okay, so this week's topic, Belle and I were basically discussing, it all boils down to communication, and everything associated with that. Communication is hard, but when you're an adult, you should know by now to use those skills you have learned. And I get some people were not raised with healthy communication styles. Also, at the same time, you learn, talk to people, reach out, that type of thing. I don't know, Belle, what's been your experience?
I agree. I feel like ever since I've come to college, I see like the lack of learning how to communicate. And in my opinion, freshman year I can kind of get it. But the older you get and the longer you're in college, and especially as you transition into the real world, like communication is so vital, but people still don't know how. And some of that does boil down to like if somebody grew up in a non-communicative household, they don't do well with confrontation. But I think like lack of communication does lead to that confrontation and eventually.
Mhm. Oh, for sure. And I mean, if it's one thing that I've learned, like going through the J school, communication is key. Like, I don't know, as a journalism student, you communicate with people every day. Um, so it's like, I don't know, I feel like my communication skills have gotten better that way too. But I know not everybody has that opportunity and everything. There, sometimes I feel like I'm more communicative than, I don't know, a lot of people in my life. And sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse. I don't know. How was it like being raised for you? I don't know. How did your mom teach communication?
I feel like, sorry mom if you're listening, communication communication wasn't really, I don't know, it wasn't a topic we talked about in our house until like I was old enough to like really talk about my mental health with my mom. I feel like so growing up, I mean, we had communication, but there's nothing that was like, when you're upset, you should communicate that to me. It was just kind of like, okay, you're upset, you know? There was no like, I don't know, we didn't have a talk. Like, this is how I want you to respond. This is how I should respond. It just kind of like developed naturally as I got older.
Right. And that's a good thing. That's pretty healthy. I feel like mine definitely stemmed from like, I don't know, like we would have those family talks, like, why are you upset? What is causing you to be upset? That type of thing. But then, because of the amount of children in my house, it wasn't like not everybody could have that special time to like actually talk about their feelings. And everybody would take their feelings out on everybody, and nobody would understand what's going on in that person's life and why they were doing what they were doing and that type of thing. Like there was a long period of time where I had to walk on eggshells around, my sister, because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't, nobody told me. I was only hearing like secondhand stories, that type of thing. And I mean, that's another thing too. I would rather hear it from you instead of secondhand from a person or
Yeah.
from another person. Um, but like, I don't know. I know here recently, Belle and I have had some issues. Like, if you have a problem, say it to me. If you think there's something wrong with what I'm doing, tell me. If
Yeah.
you're going through something and need to talk about it, hey, I'm here. Let me be your sounding board. Um, but yeah, that's just
I think like going off of that, like so much of like reactions in college too stem from the fact that like when you're in high school or middle school, like that's how you would act. And
right.
transition period of like, hey, once you get to college, this is how you should start communicating because it's not the same as in high school. It's not like he said, she said, blah, 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 whatever. It's like you actively talk about it. And I think that's something that many people don't realize transitioning into college, which is like fine. Freshman year, you can get away with that. But I feel like I said earlier, the older you get, the less the like, I don't know, the silent
There's no
treatment.
excuse.
Yeah. Because especially if somebody is actively trying to communicate with you, to like maybe they noticed, oh, you're upset with me, and they're trying to actively like they want you to say it, or they want you to be comfortable talking about it. Because like for a friendship to continue, like things happen, people get upset. That's fine. That's natural. But it's like if you want it to continue, you have to say something. You can't imagine that somebody is just reading your mind. Like I don't walk down the street and I'm like, oh, that girl seems upset. No, I don't know. I don't know you. I can't see your mind. And the same goes for friendships. I mean, you can tell when somebody's off, but there's a trillion things that could be attributed to. And like, especially if it's not that person that you're upset with, like, I think that's also important to communicate too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also to like piggyback, facial expressions could mean nothing. Like I'll admit, Belle, a lot of the times I think you're pissed at me. And then I'll like crack a joke and you'll laugh and then I'll realize, oh, okay, she's cool. She's chill. But I mean, Belle is really open and everything, but it's like you can't determine how someone feels based off of how they look on the outside. You don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know, how they feel on the inside, what they're going through, that type of thing. So, I mean, again, another reason why communication is just as important. Um,
You can thank my dad for that.
the RBF or what?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I like think about it all the time. I'll walk through. So I, whenever I like shop, I have like I'll put my headphones in because I don't want people to talk to me. But it's so funny because then like I know that I look pissed and I just want to know what people think when I walk by because genuinely, usually I'm not mad. It's just like that's how my face rests when I shop like grocery shop in Hy-Vee. I'll just be like, great, another bag of cheese. Awesome. And then like I think about it and I'm like, they probably think like I'm mad, but that's see, and that's the thing. I might not be mad. I might be having the best day of my life. And I'm still gonna show up to Hy-Vee looking
Yeah.
pissed off.
Yep. I mean, hey, but I'm not gonna lie, it makes it more enjoyable when I can get you to laugh, though. So I
I'm a lot
consider it a
more
personal
expressive
victory.
than I used to be. So
You what?
I'm a lot more expressive than I used to be. So
Hey, that's a good thing. It's only, only up.
it is. Um, so if someone were to come to you with a problem, like how would you address that? Like they're like, I'm mad at you, you're a fucking bitch, whatever. Like how do you communicate your feelings through that? Because I feel like when somebody comes to you, it's harder because they want to be right, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I have a lot of like issues where I'm like, oh no, like I don't know, my dad gives me this look whenever he's mad at me, and then I literally like get upset and almost start to cry. So if anybody comes up to me with any problems and is like, oh yeah, I'm mad at you, you're a bitch, that type of thing, I'm obviously gonna be like, what? Pure and utter shock, first off. That's gonna be my initial reaction. Um, and then I'll probably like I don't know if you get like the boiling sensation like in your chest and everything, but when I get mad, I like feel the heat in my chest and in my cheeks and everything, and I'll probably get that and I'll be like, "Okay, let's calm down. Let's take a step back. What the is happening?" Um and then just, tell me about it. I go to Justin all the time and I'm like, is there something that I'm doing that you think that I can, fix or that you think that I could work on in the relationship? And a lot of times like he'll tell me no, but because I'm just perfect. Anyway, but he'll be like, well, like, could we work on this? or that type of thing. And I'll be like, yes, yes, we can work on that going forward. And honestly, it not even just in like a relationship, but also in like platonic relationships as well. That is perfect. That makes it healthier. If you're working on something, that is way better in the long run. I remember in middle school, it was, yeah, middle school. I got into a fight with some of my friends, and they were like, Leah, you're not acting the same. You're acting like a bitch, and you look like terrible. Like, you look like you're treating everybody ridiculous and blah, 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 and crap like that. And I'm like, y'all, I don't know what's changed. I don't know what's going on. I'm so sorry if it's hurting your feelings and blah, 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 blah. But I just don't see what's going on. And I kept like denying, like, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, nothing is happening. And my friends, like, it just drew them like away from me. And from that, I to this day, I really don't know what happened. I don't know what went wrong. But I think also since we were so young and so underdeveloped, like we didn't know like how to properly communicate that. Like or give reasons or examples and that type of thing. Um, and that's okay. But, you know, that's just also another reason as to why you need to sit down. You need to communicate. Think of reasons. Think of, ways to make things better and what you can do to improve in the future. That's just going to make those relationships stronger. Anyway, what about you?
So I used to react really poorly because I don't do well with confrontation. And like I used to like just let people have at it with me. I wouldn't argue for my side. I would I mean, you could throw anything at me and I'd be like, yep, you're right. I'm the shittiest person ever. And I feel like now, like 2 years later, almost three, that's crazy. Like looking back at that me freshman year versus now, I'm like, actually, I do have something to say because I think one, that's the only way you can communicate. Like it can be really hard, and it is really hard as a people pleaser, as an empath, to stand up for yourself when you want somebody else to feel better. But I also think that for your own mental health, you have to learn that, okay, well, what you did was really shitty to me too. You gave me the silent treatment, or you went and talked to all of our friends about it, or you shunned me from this group excursion and didn't tell me, and it made me feel like shit. So now it's like a two-way problem.
Yeah.
And I think like now I'm more willing to talk about it, but I'm less willing to let you be like, well, this is how I feel and that's the right way. Cause no, wrong. And I think like, I mean, I'm sure like if I went to therapy, I'd be way better at it. But because I did go to therapy for friendships my freshman year, LOL. And like I think that did help. It was like analyzing that, you're not always the problem. And if you're openly trying to communicate with people, then you definitely are not the problem.
Yeah.
And if those people choose not to communicate with you, that's on them. Because you tried. At the end of the day, you tried and you tried, but at some point, like you have to say, like, I'm done. You
So,
like, sorry, go.
no, you're good. Go ahead and finish because I was
So I
segue.
so it's just kind of like your reaction is up to you
Mm-hmm.
in those instances, and it's about learning how to analyze the situation and responding accordingly. You can take accountability, but also realize like your feelings in the situation are valid too.
Yeah. So in your opinion, if someone was just, kept trying and just could not get through to a person and trying to mend things, that type of thing, and putting in efforts, what would you recommend to that person?
Fuck it. Like you tried.
How many times is too much?
Whew, girl. I am the wrong person because I need to fix it. But I think if you know there's a problem and they haven't said something and you're actively trying to either get them to say it, fix it because you know it's a problem, or you genuinely don't know and you're trying to hang out with them and you're like, why the fuck are they mad at me? I would say if you're asking for them to do something for you more than 3 times a week, I'd say that's too much.
Sure.
Because a friendship is a two-way street. Leah asks me to hang out. I ask Leah to hang out. Leah, I work on Leah's podcast schedule when she can, and if there's a week that I can't like see my birthday, we work on that together. So it's like that is the point when I say if they're not putting in that 100% too, because I don't believe in 50-50. I believe you give 100% to the friendships that you have, the relationships you have. 50-50 comes when it's like, let's hang out, let's hang out. It's not just a one-way street of you're always asking of this person.
Yeah.
And I think that's when it comes too much because now you're weighing it on yourself that this friendship is solely your responsibility.
Mhm.
And it's not. It's not. So that's when I feel like you've reached a point where you gave them the stick and they didn't take it.
Yeah. Um, yeah. You said what I needed to say. Like I had it in my head. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna say this. And then you said it. And I was like, uh-huh, uh-huh.
People pleaser.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, when do you think? Because I think disagreements, communication, all of that, like, can also tie into like also like happier aspects of relationships and friendships. So, like, when do you think it's like communication would alleviate problems happening? Does that make sense? Like, so prior to an incident, I guess this kind of goes into boundaries, but
Yes. Discussing.
yeah,
Go ahead. Go
but
ahead.
well, I was going to say, like, do you think that prior communication about whatever it is or however you're feeling, even if it's not about a situation that has happened yet, like, could avoid conflict later?
Yeah. So discussing uh boundaries is definitely a big part of that. Um, I know, like, I'm sorry, the only and like healthiest example that I could like think of right now is Justin and I, like when we got together, like he was like, "Oh yeah, this is how my past relationships have gone. You know, all these girls, like this is probably what I would have changed and that type of thing." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm
They've
not
been
like that." What?
together for like 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's worked. It worked. But like we talked about that and he was like, I was like, "So when we first got together, he was like, in the event like we do break up, like I don't want it to be like this. Like like I'm just like scared that this is gonna be the qualms and blah 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 blah." And I was like, if we break up, we break up. Like I'm sure it's not gonna be over some stupid reason. Um, I mean, and if we break up, then you're out. Like it's not. Yeah, you were a big part of my life for a long time, or you were a part of my life at that type, whatever, during an influential time in my life. But I gotta move forward. I gotta like do what I gotta do to make myself better, and so do you. And like dwelling on this is not gonna help it at all. So that would be my like recommendation. Like discuss boundaries, discuss what you want out of certain relationships. And I know it sounds so silly over friendships, but also hinting about past friendships and how you were treated in past friendships and being like, yeah, like these friends just kind of they left me, like they talk behind my back and blah 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 blah. I hear stories about that, like from, I mean, you, um I don't know, she probably will advocate, but Lauren Carlton, I've heard stories from, not to name drop, but her about that and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, like, how do people just do that? You know, like if I had to be like, hey, sorry, I'm not your friend, or I don't think we can go along with this relationship, I'd probably say that right off the bat and save a whole lot of hurt um, in the long run. Um, so, like, again, prior communication, set your boundaries, discuss, stories about past relationships and what went wrong. So that way that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
The canon effect. Anyway,
I,
wait, canon event. That's what it is.
I
Um,
think it's like to like when you said, I don't think we should be friends. I don't think we should be in this relationship. It's saying those things out loud to avoid somebody from holding on and still trying and still actively trying to make something work, something happen. Because like essentially that will happen. You could be checked out of it, but if you're not saying that to somebody, then how are they ever gonna know? They're
right,
not, because you never said, hey, I just don't think this friendship is for me anymore.
right.
And that's, I think it's harder in college though, because like naturally most friendships in college run their course over those 4 years and you guys move, friendships end, maybe you follow each other on Instagram. Same goes for high school. Um, and so they just naturally end that way. So I know some people just let it run its course to be like, well, at least we can still go to the bars together.
Yeah.
Even then, I think it avoids hurt. Period. If you're like, I mean, there's friendships that have ended in college that I wish somebody had like, I wish they had just said, let's not be friends.
Yeah.
Because Lord knows I would have stopped trying a long fucking time ago.
And it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of effort. Like it's
It's terrible.
exhausting. Yeah. And traumatic.
Yeah.
So,
You
yeah.
know, communicate. Because why are my friends from back home better friends than people here?
Yeah. And you're supposed, right. And you're supposed to go to college to make friends. So, well, I mean, for education, but you're supposed to make friends in college, Like,
And I also, but I do say all of this to say, like, I think that from those friendships ending, you find your real people.
oh, for
And
sure.
sometimes that is accepting that they've graduated, they've moved on with their lives, but they actively like ask you how you're doing.
Yeah.
They invite you to their weddings. They make sure that you are a part of their lives, even if you guys aren't communicating all the time.
Mm.
And that's something that I've had to accept and be okay with in college is okay. My OG best friend is Jordan. She is on her way to fucking Paris right now. I'm
You're not
rotting
jealous.
here, rotting away in Columbia, Missouri, where it's 96 fucking degrees outside.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and like I there's this whole TikTok thing. Maybe I'll tag it on our thing
Yeah.
on like best friend theories. And so you
Sorry.
so you have your OG best friend, but then I've also accepted like when I go home, I have these other friends that maybe we don't talk all the time, but as soon as I'm home, they want to know, they want to hear, they want to be there. And same goes here. So there's no shade at Leah also. But like I think like the older you get though, you realize like that's okay. You don't need somebody there 24/7. And that's great if you do. But you have seasonal friendships and you have people that'll always be there who you communicate best with. So make friends basically with yourself. Like when you see yourself and other people, those are the people you should be friends with.
Oh yeah.
They will communicate the same way that you will and value you the same way that you value them. Mic drop.
My anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. Until next time, and if you have any, relationship, friendship stories that you want to discuss about, in terms of communications, drop that down in the DMs, comments, whatever. And Belle and I honestly are really good therapists, so we can help you if you need some recommendations or whatever. Bella's definitely way more forward than I am about that. She's gonna be like, F it. And I'm gonna be like, okay, well, how about.
I am a psych finder, so I do know how to address.
Yes. Belle, yeah, she's more of a professional than I am. But anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.